everybody, and thank you for joining me for another Christmas card tutorial video. Before we get into this one, I just want to remind you that I do have plenty of Christmas cards available in my Etsy shop that are available to you instantaneously after you purchase them, and then you can print them out as many times as you want. So if you're still looking for some Christmas cards for the holiday season, consider supporting your independent artist such as myself. Awesome, so let's just get right into the tutorial. I am using my sketchbook here simply because I only had one page to go and I just wanted to finish this sketchbook finally after a year. And I want to do a sketchbook tour for the new year, so obviously if you are gifting this card to somebody, you want to paint it on a separate piece of watercolor paper. So the first thing that you want to do is take a circular object and trace it in the center of your watercolor piece of paper. I think I used a lid or a mason jar. Anything circular works. Just make sure that your tracing is very, very light and that the pencil isn't really hard, just because watercolor tends to be on the more transparent side. It's not as opaque as other paints, and so you don't want the pencil to show through the paint. And then you can start painting and following the circle, like following the outline of the circle to create your wreath. And obviously the wreath is going to represent the letter O, since we are spelling out the word joy here. So my wreath is created using a variety of winter and Christmas foliage. So I have some pine branches, I have some twigs, holly, and other green leaves. You can really get away with anything here as long as you use the appropriate Christmas colors. So basically paint anything green and it will look very holiday-y and in the Christmas spirit. The real magic, however, happens when we add the red berries later on for the holly and just on the little branches that we painted. So I know it might look a little bit plain right now, but you can just fill in all of those white spaces with some red berries in a moment. But you just want to make sure that you're spacing your foliage fairly uniformly and evenly, just so everything is spread out really nice. So as you can see, I have 3 twigs that were painted approximately the same width apart, with the green foliage connecting them, alternating between pine branches and so on. By the way, if you want some tips on how to paint pine trees and pine branches, I encourage you to check out one of my previous videos where I went over how to paint 4 different types of pines, so check that out. But here you can see that I am filling in the white spaces with some red berries and adding some red berries to the twigs as well. As you can see, this really livens up the wreath and it makes it look very holiday-y and very Christmassy. So you don't even have to just use red berries. You can vary it up and add colorful paints just to make it look like there are ornaments hanging down, whatever you prefer really. Now I felt my wreath was a little bit on the thin side, so I went ahead and took some green paint and just added a bunch of thicker leaves towards or coming off of the inside of the wreath. So they weren't really supposed to be any specific type of leaf or plant. They were just, I literally just painted blobs of green and they looked pretty okay. And I would just, if you're gonna do this, I would just fill in the spaces that look a little bit bare compared to the others, because you want the circle or the wreath to be sort of evenly spread out, and you want it to look circular, because if there's more green in one place compared to the other, then it's not going to look very circular and not very even. Once you're happy with your wreath, you can start painting in the other two letters, so the J and the Y. As you can see, I drew out my letters with pencil first, or I sketched them out. The one error that I did, or that I made, is that I didn't erase the pencil. You can definitely trace in your letters, but you want to then erase them slightly so that they're visible enough that you can see them, but faint enough that they won't show through the watercolor. These were thick, sorry, not thick, but harsh enough to show through the watercolor paint, and so I had to paint multiple layers just to hide the pencil. So don't make that mistake, because you can't erase the pencil once you've already painted over it. I'm using red watercolor for my letters here. You can choose any color you'd like, really, but I thought that the red of the letters really accentuated the red berries in the wreath, so you can definitely do the same. Once you're finished your letters and everything is completely dry, you are all finished your card. Don't forget to check out my Etsy shop, subscribe to this channel for more videos, and I hope you have a wonderful day.